intro the DNA company. We all have 23 pairs of chromosomes, and they'll take a swab, and they'll tell you all about your ancestry, but really almost even more important, it's about your health and what your DNA says about what you'll have a propensity for, or how many times you'll sneeze when the sun comes out, or how much your hair will blonde, and all these sorts of cool things about it. And there's something about, we've learned so much about DNA since Crick in 1953. And I said, okay, listen, hey, if you want to do 23andMe, the church will provide it, and we'll look at some of your information and we'll show it to the church, and we're going to do that. Now, if you have some children or you might have some children that you're not aware of, this is not the test to take, okay? And or if you've dumped a body before, probably not the test for you to take. Your DNA says a lot about where you've been and what you've done. But if you're interested in that, after this service, Amanda will be in the prayer room. We're going to have 4 people per service, and we're going to see what those results come out and see what we find. Now, as we enter the year 2023, of course, there's something about Psalm 23 that speaks to what? The DNA of what a Christian, what a believer really is. In my position, and if you've been a Christian for a while, there's nothing that breaks your heart more than someone who thinks they're a Christian who's not. That the enemy has deceived them, that if they know about Jesus, or if they attend church, or they serve or give, that somehow that makes them a Christian. And so many people think they're going to heaven when they're not. And I love Psalm 23 because we get the look of exactly what the DNA of someone who is a Christ follower, what that looks like. And so as we go through this passage, we're going to go verse by verse and word by word. It's 6 verses, and I want you to understand what it looks like to be a Christian and what the DNA of that really is all about. Now, as we talk about the Psalms is the largest book in the Bible. If you were to take your Bible and just turn to what you think the middle will be, it'll fall in Psalms. It's 150 Hebrew poems. Now, not only are these poems, we know almost all of their authorship, well, actually about 75% or so. There are some that are anonymous. David wrote the most of them. He wrote 74 of them. The oldest one is the one that Moses wrote. These poems are praises, but these poems are also personal. And this is not just some people say, oh, it's just a hymn book or a psalm book. No. The care of these poems over the last 3,000 years or so have been divided up into 5 books, and as they start it in, they connect with each other. And if you've never done a study in Psalms, I would encourage you to do that. It's fascinating. And what I love about the Psalms is that they are raw and they are real. This is not, hey, let's write a letter and make sure we got all our theology right and it looks good, and let's make sure the grammar's correct. No. This is art. This is poem. This is heart, and they are raw and real as you go through them. Some of your favorite Psalms are probably that way. Psalms 51, and when David is getting right with the Lord. And I love when Christians get to this point, and I think that my walk with the Lord is better when I see this wound that I have, or this shortcoming, and I come before the Lord and go, listen, Lord, listen, hey, I don't want to pretend to just live on yesterday's manna, or that I'm all where I need to be. Man, I have things that are raw and that I need to deal with that. I want to be a part. I want to engage with you right where I'm at. There's a part of Christianity that when you've been there, you go, man, that's what it's about. When you can get what raw and real, and so much of relationship is like, how long does it take to get there? Like, I'm over the facade of, yes, everything's fine. And some of you feel that tendency when you know someone kind of as acquaintance here, and you go, oh, everything's good, everything's fine, and you just kind of continue talking about the same thing. We do it with family and friends, and it's like, man, how many years, minutes, hours are we wasting in our life before we get what? We get real raw and real. The number 1 app this year was called Be Real. And I love that there's a generation learning about social media basically if you're under 25, you've seen the pitfalls of it more. And even now at 12, 13, 14, they go, man, I really don't want to pursue that fake life. And everyone's trying to develop these apps. And hey, how can we be social, but we can be accurate, we can be real. There's something about that we all desire. The Psalms display every emotion. Some people think that as a Christian or your relationship with God, that you can't tell him how you really feel when you're upset with him or you're angered. If you're a moody person, I have no idea what that's like, but if you are a moody person, you will find your mood in the Psalms. Read it, you'll find it. But what's great about it is when you find the mood you're in, God will use those Psalms to put you in the mood that you should be. One of the things that the Psalms teach us is it teaches us to learn to lament. Sometimes walking with the Lord, you don't want to admit that you're sad or you're discouraged. And the Psalms, most of them have times of lamenting. And I would just encourage you on your 21-day fast, start every morning with, Lord, here's what I'm discouraged by, I'm upset by. I want to give you my lament. And allow him to take that and to work on that. Please don't pretend he knows when you're pretending. Learn to lament. And every emotion is in the Psalms. Now, we're going to be in Psalms 23, of course. And I love Psalms 1, the fear of the Lord. I mean, you got Psalms 119, Psalms 100, Psalms 139. Those are some of my favorite Psalms. I don't know what your favorites are. There's a lot of them. But there is nothing that compares to Psalm 23. Outside of Genesis 1, it's probably the most read passage in the Old Testament. And probably Genesis 1 has a little bit advantage just because when people go, I want to read the Bible, they start in Genesis 1. But Psalms 23 has been most read than any other passage, and it is for good reason. We can't get into all the beauty of Psalm 23 in this setting. And so we are creating content every week. We're starting a podcast called For Christ's Sake. And we recorded about 70 minutes this week on verse 1. That'll be available to you if you're running or exercising and you want to just hear a little bit more in depth on that. And we're going to do that for every verse of this passage just to give you a little bit more context. We'll have about 6 or 7 or 8 hours worth on this passage. I want to also share that some of you have decided to start the year reading the Bible. And I think, of course, we're all going to start in Psalms 23. But don't always necessarily take that Genesis 1 approach. We have the one-year Bible, but also Kelly's doing the chronological Bible this year. If you have a hard time understanding, like, man, why did I read this in 1 Samuel, but also in Chronicles, and why is there so much overlap? Go to a chronological Bible, and you'll see that the first book was Genesis, but what's right there? Job is the oldest text that we have. And you'll learn to work through the Bible chronologically, if that'll be helpful for you in that. But I can't think of a greater place to start than Psalms 23. And can I just tell you, the Lord is already working on me. I like rhyme, I like alliteration, and the Lord said no to that in this series. And this morning, I'm ready to print off the teaching sheet with them. I got some great alliteration. I'm excited about it. And literally my computer turned off. It wouldn't turn back on. And the iCloud took four slides that it uploaded to my iPad. And the Lord said, no, we're not doing that. Okay. I'm in there grieving over it. Matt Brumley walks in, and I'm like, Matt, it's not good. He's like, what? Is there an update on your dad? I said, well, no. I said, but I don't have my outline. He's like, what? I thought it was something serious. I said, it is something serious. This is important to me. And so we're just going to go word for word. And that's what we're going to do in this series. And so I'm just going to be speaking and teaching a little bit out of an overflow of just reading this, and some of it may make sense and some of it not. If you got the word with you, turn to Psalms 23. It's located right here on this wall. And verse 1 says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And we're going to start with the phrase, the Lord. the Lord. Why is that important to David? Because there's a lot of small G's, aren't there? There's a lot of little gods out there. There's a lot of little lords that you and I we have to succumb to. If you're a parent, you got kids, you got to take care of them. And if you're not careful, they can become what? They can become a little G that dictates all your time and your energy and your resources. We had a men's breakfast yesterday and loved the testimony of the guy that said, man, God, my work is my G. It's my God. It's what I put my energy and effort to. And what did the Lord do? He said he took it away from me. And he's been out of a job for 4 months. And what? His relationship with the Lord is stronger than it's ever been. Because God loved him enough to say, I'm taking that away from you because it's no longer a little G, it's become a big G. And David says, listen, I want to address the Lord. And he uses Yahweh here. Not Adonai, not Elohim. He says Yahweh here. Now this is the one and all-sufficient Lord who I want to talk to, who I want to share with, who I want to get to know, the Lord. And can I just tell you, have you started a sentence lately like that? Or a prayer like that? I'm not talking to my best friend, Lord, like Jesus is my homie. I'm talking about the Lord. The all-sufficient, the almighty one. Lord, I come to you, the Lord. Is. The Lord is. Why is that important? David's not talking about the Lord was. And listen, the Lord was good to you yesterday, and he was good to me. But that's not what David's interested in right now, is he? It's not the Lord was. It's not the Lord will. Oh, the Lord will be good. The Lord will do this. No. David said what? The Lord is. Do you have the confidence right now to say the Lord is my shepherd? Or is it, he was my shepherd, I used to listen to him, I used to follow him, or hey, one day I'm going to give it over to him and the Lord will be my shepherd. Hang on. Hey, he will. No. The Lord is. The Lord is mine. Well, that's different. 6 verses, there's going to be 30 personal pronouns. Now, would anybody have a problem here if it said the Lord is a shepherd? Would that not be true? Of course. The Lord is a shepherd. The Lord is the cornerstone. The Lord is a fortress. He is a strong tower. But David said, no. The Lord is what? My shepherd. See the difference? So you can confess that Jesus is Lord, but can you say Jesus is my Lord? Big difference. I think it's also kind of interesting to think here. The Lord is my. There's a personal relationship that David is saying. The Lord is my shepherd. My shepherd? What was David? He was a shepherd. What did David know most? He knew about being a shepherd. You can 1 Samuel 17, you can read all about David being a shepherd. And it said he had a few sheep in the desert. You learn a lot about God in the desert, by the way. Not a lot of distractions there. But he said he's my shepherd. What's your occupation? Would you say the Lord is my teacher? The Lord is my accountant? See how it's different? You know a lot about that area, and so did David. And he said, you know what? He's better. He's my shepherd. It's so personal of going, Lord, what I think I know how to do or do best, you're better at it. And I see you in the thing that I love to do. God gifted you and wired you to be the gift and to be a teacher. And he goes, hey, well, I'm going to show you, I want to be your teacher. He loves speaking our passion. He loves speaking the things that we love. The Lord is mine. It's personal. The Lord is my shepherd. And here is the metaphor. The Lord is my shepherd. David will use the rest of these verses to back up one. The Lord is my shepherd. We hear about shepherding all the way through the Bible. In Genesis, you have Jacob. Genesis 48:15, he said, God has been my shepherd all of my life. You can go to Revelation chapter 7 and hear about the shepherd. David, of course, was a shepherd. Jacob was a shepherd. Many were shepherd. And you see this metaphor of a shepherd. Now, most of you know the role of a shepherd was to take care of the sheep. And the shepherd would call the sheep. They would recognize his voice. He would take them to find food. He would take them to find drink. He would keep them from harm's way. When they come into the sheep gate, the shepherd would lay across that entrance so that no sheep would wander away during that time, so they can keep them from attack. And there's so many motifs about shepherd. I understand that, and we're familiar with some of that. Speaking of shepherds, of course, this was the crew that the announcement, the vision that Jesus was born, it came to shepherds. But in this statement, the Lord is my shepherd, David's also saying what? That he is a sheep. That he's a sheep. Sheep are stupid and dumb. We know that. Everyone says that about sheep because it's true. You have to show them where the food and drink is every single day or they'll die literally because they don't know where to eat. They don't know where to drink. They wander. They stray. They can't run fast. They don't have good eyesight. They're defenseless. They're timid. They're fearful. They're prone to wonder. And God says, yep, that's who y'all are. I'm calling you sheep. Amen? That's who we are. He says, if I'm going to place humans in an animal category, that's what they're like. Do you remember the prophet Jeremiah? Jeremiah 50. He says this, my people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have led them astray and caused them to roam on the mountains. They wandered over mountain and hill and forgot their resting place. Jeremiah says that there are sheep who have been led astray and their shepherds have let them wander, and the shepherds or the sheep find themselves where? He says, on the mountain. What's the problem with mountain? They're dangerous and there's cliffs. And what happens to sheep who don't have a shepherd? They're alone, and there's two responses when you're on the mountain cliff. You're either you get angry and you're agitated, and when someone tries to approach you, or you have anxiety and you're lost and you're fearful. What happens to us when we're not led by a shepherd? We get aggressive and agitated. I don't need you. Don't come my way. I don't need God. And you know that you're on this cliff. You know you're in danger, and you're going to be irritable and agitated. And I'm telling you, there's people who say they're Christians, and they've been walking with them a long time, and people are going to tell me about them. They go, well, most of the time they're angry and agitated and they're alone. Who's leading them? Or you're on the other side and you're anxious about everything because you think you're in danger, you're on the mountain, you're in danger, and you have anxiety and you're anxious and you're no longer with the crowd and you find yourself alone. And there are many Christians, if you were to ask them, tell them, they'd say, man, they're anxious about everything. Now listen to me, church. I just told you. That's what I love about the Psalms. We can be real and raw with the Lord. And when you're angry, be angry. When you're anxious, be anxious. But that should not be your temperament all the time. Those are signs when you and I are what? We're not being led by a shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall not want. Some go, okay, that means I don't want to have a shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want that. I will do it on my own. Someone thinks that if the Lord is your shepherd, you'll get everything you've ever desired in life. That God is just some kind of Santa Claus genie. And people have built their whole theology in churches on this, that, hey, just get whatever you want. That's what God wants to do. And of course, we know that's not what this meant, that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Means that if the first part of that is true, if the Lord is my shepherd, he'll take care of me and I won't have any want. This is where I lack a lot over the years. I can become not content with God's timetable, and I can become not content with certain circumstances, and I can have unhealthy expectations and all sorts of things, and Kelly knows my tendencies, and I know her tendencies, and people, and this is where I live, of saying, Lord, I don't want anything that you don't want. I don't want it to happen in any other timetable than when you want it to happen. Would you help me, allow you to shepherd me and to lead me and to remind me I'm dumb and I'm a sheep and I'm going to go astray over and over. And every day you're going to have to remind me the real place to come drink and the real place to come eat and to feed and to get pasture and to stay out of harm's way. And I'm going to do it over and over and over again. And I need you to shepherd me. I need to say, the Lord is my shepherd today, so I shall not want. When I don't rest well, I get a little bit more emotional. And Kelly's like, you're just tired. And I'm gonna tell you how this plays out. So I guess I'm snoring a lot. Is that I don't hear it, but all of a sudden, I guess Kelly said the last 3 months I've really been snoring loudly, and she can't sleep. And so she, does what every great wife does. She videos me the other night. And I respond, well, you snore too, but not as loudly or as often, but you do. But I said, Kelly, you like to go to sleep with the TV on, you need white noise, so why is that stopping you from going to sleep? And she's like, I don't know, it's just different. It wakes me up and I can't go back to sleep. I said, okay. So, she wants me to take like this sleep apnea test and stuff. And my mom had that, my dad, my brother, and everyone else in my family, I guess. And I don't know, there's something about that just seems like, I don't know, like I'm getting old and I need an apparatus to sleep. And I don't know, they're like, oh, you can just push a button on now. I don't know. So I've really been avoiding that because I'm just embarrassed to say I need that, I guess. So I tried to come up with another solution. And I literally pitched this to my family last night. I said, babe, hey, I said, I love Mattress Mac. And I said, he came to my elementary school, Palmer Elementary. I was in second grade. And he came dressed up in a mattress. I'll save you money. He started on the side of the road, and Mattress Mac is just Houston. And I remember when I moved back down from Dallas to Houston, I'd stop at a store and he'd be sitting. I'd go pray for him. Say, man, I want you to try and drop by. I'd pray for you. And when my dad was going through cancer, he was at MD Anderson. We ran into each other a couple times in the elevator, and I'm a Mattress Mac kind of guy. I said, but Kelly, he's kind of got a little overboard on these little gambling. He's basically a degenerate gambling. I mean that in the nicest way, Mattress Mac. He just he's placing all these big bets on these things. Well, last week, TCU defeats Michigan. They were underdog, and they win the game, which means they play in the national championship game Monday night, and they're playing against Georgia. And they're 12.5-point underdogs, and that's a big margin for a national championship game. I don't think there's even been a margin that big since the college playoff, and Mattress Mac can't help himself. And he gets into a TCU purple Lamborghini, and he drives over Louisiana, and he places 3 major bets on that TCU is going to win the game. And he hedges his bets by doing promotions at the store. And so his promotion, that's only a week old, is, hey, if you buy $3,000 more of furniture and TCU wins, you get your furniture free. And typically, that's what he does for Astros. But this one, he knows they're such underdogs, he says, I'm going to double your money. So if you buy $3,000 and they win, you get your mattress, and then I'm going to give you $3,000 for doing this. And so last night, about 6 p.m. or so, we're on the way home. I said, hey, family. I said, listen, done a little research, and if you can put your body in a certain position in a bed, it'll help the snoring. And in fact, I've done that. I went to the place and did that kind of stuff. And I said, listen, Mattress Mac he's a little overboard right now, but there's an opportunity here because he's only had 1 week to promote this. It's not like, hey, if the Astros win all year long, and I was like, hey, he's got 1 week to promote this, and so he knows he's got to double. It's got to be better. Hey, let's go. We'll go get. I said, Jayden, you want a new bed? Joel, you want a new bed? I said, we'll get new beds. Let's all go get new beds what we want. And then listen, hey, I love rooting for the underdog. I want the Texas TCU senior. Who knows? Let's root for TCU the underdog. And hey, and if he wins, not only do we get all that for free, we get whatever cost that is. And that was so stupid for me to say that. Stupid. Jules, all about it. Boom. She's on the website. She's got $6,000 worth of bedroom furniture picked out. She goes, cool, let's do it. That's my girl, okay? Jayden goes, there's nothing wrong with my bed. I said, Jayden, you had that bed for 10 years. I know, it suits me well. I said, Jayden, you don't want a really nice bed, Tempur-Pedic, that move around? And he's like, well, no, because then if I went somewhere else, the sleep would be always so awful than home. And so, no, I'm just fine with the bed I got. I said, okay. I said, Kelly, I'm snoring bad. You can do it individually, beds. And Kelly said, Jason, it's not wise for us. We really can't afford those. I said, I know that. I said, TCU's going to win, babe. We're going to root for TCU. But Jason, you always have to plan for the worst case scenario. Well, worst case scenario is we're going to be paying for some beds for a long time, okay? But we're going to sleep great. And, of course, that went nowhere, and we're not getting the beds. Unless you've had a change of heart, babe. It's not too late. It can be delivered tonight before the game. And I was like, well, what if we don't like them and want to return them if they don't win? Because it's only one day. Anyways, they don't allow you to do that. But I say that in a laughing way because that's one I could share with you. But, man, I shall not want. I want to be there. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Church, I want this to be the greatest year ever in my life and in your life and in this church's life. And it won't happen unless with all of our heart we make a commitment to say, the Lord, not was, not will, the Lord is. Not everybody else's. No, he's my shepherd. Of course, John 10:10, Jesus uses the same metaphor, doesn't he? And he says, I'm the good shepherd. And my sheep know my voice. Jesus talked about when one sheep goes astray. He said a good shepherd leaves the 99 and goes after the one. Do you believe you're worthy of his pursuit this morning? Do you know that you have a good shepherd that wants to come after you this morning? Are you willing to recognize that you're a sheep and you're dumb and you've strayed away, and that you have a good shepherd that says, you're worth it and you're worthy and I'm coming after you? Because he wants you and I to be at a place where we can say like David, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Would you pray with me? Lord, I thank you for this year that we're walking into. And God, I thank you for just reminding us at the beginning that we're not in charge, we're not in control, and we certainly can't lead ourselves. And when we do, we find ourselves in danger, and we begin to get agitated with others and aggravated, or we get anxious and we find ourselves alone. And I thank you as you're going to teach us through Psalms 23 of what it looks like for you to be our shepherd and for us not to want, and what you will do and how we'll respond. God, I pray that we would take this passage and we would memorize it. We'd hide it in our hearts so we won't sin against you. And we would learn the richness of how you want us to live and what it means, what we're made of, the DNA inside of us as Christians who are quick to humble ourselves and say, no. It's not I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And we surrender and submit to your voice and to your calling and the places you want us to go. God, we don't want to make plans without you telling us where to go. God, I pray we'd understand how important, how dependent we are. God, as we go into a time of prayer and fasting, can we just give you permission? Would you reroute us to where we need to go and who we need to be? God, I pray there'd be an expectancy that the Lord is active, the Lord is present. God, I pray that there'd be just a personal relationship and a joy to say the Lord is mine. He knows me, and I know him. And he knows when I'm going astray, and he's coming after me. God, I pray for just contentment. God, we know your word says contentment with godliness is great gain. God, would you help us be content where we're at? Would you show us the error of our ways when we want things that are outside of you and your will, plan, and desire for our life? Lord, we love you and we thank you for Psalm 23:1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. We love you and we ask this in Jesus' name.